Alright, so in this lesson we're going to discuss the Mongod. You'll learn what the Mongod is, how it works at a high level and what a daemon is, the availability of Mongod, and the options you can use to configure it. Mongod is the main daemon process for MongoDB. It's the core unit of the database, handling connections, requests, and the most important part of it, persisting your data, or writing your data to disk. So what's a daemon? A daemon is a program or process that's meant to be run and not interacted with in a direct manner. By convention, daemons have a D appended to the end of their name, hence the name Mongod. When we run Mongod, we don't interact with it directly. Instead, our application utilizes a driver to communicate with the Mongod. The user interaction is at the application level, and the driver handles all the nitty-gritty details of communication with the Mongod. MongoDB is available on numerous 64-bit architectures, including popular ones such as Ubuntu, Windows, and others. For development and demo purposes, you can also install it on a Mac OS. Alright, so now that we have an idea of what Mongod is, let's discuss its usage. Mongod is most easily started by running the command mongod. We see a bunch of output here, but the most important information is at the very top and the very bottom. Alright, now so you can see here, Mongod has told us the process ID of this Mongod process, 5838, the port that it's running on, 27017, the DB path, and these are both defaults. That's because we didn't specify anything else. It also gives us the host name of the Vagrant box, m103. And we can see at the bottom here that it's listening for connections on port 27017. Notice that our terminal is no longer interactive. For example, if we type, nothing happens. The terminal just feeds us a new line. We have to open up a different window in terminal in order to connect to Mongo here. Alright, so we're just going to open up a second terminal window here and type the Mongo command to connect to Mongo. This will connect on the default port, which is 27017. And we're connected. Now let's run the command show DBs from the shell to get a list of databases. We should see admin and local. And there we do. Keep in mind that if you've been using MongoDB locally already, you might see more databases than this. Alright, so looking back at the terminal output for Mongod, we can see exactly when we connected. The lines with the information connection accepted can tell us exactly when a connection happened and where it came from. In this case, it was just us, connecting through the Mongo shell. Okay, we're done with this Mongod for now, so we're going to shut down the server and exit the Mongo shell. To do so, we'll switch back to the terminal with the Mongo shell, use the admin database, and then run the shutdown command. Finally, we'll exit the Mongo shell with the exit command. So I'm just going to use the admin database here, and then I'm going to run the command db.shutdown server. This is going to close the Mongod process. And if we look at the Mongod output, we can see that it's shut down. To exit the Mongo shell, we simply have to type exit. We can see the output from Mongod that as it shut down, it removed any socket files, and in general just cleaned up after itself, just to be a good process on our computer and not take up too much space while it's not running. Alright, so now let's talk about how to configure the Mongod. The Mongod takes a myriad of flags, and we can see all of them by typing the command mongod help. That's a lot of flags. For right now, the ones we're going to cover are port, DB path, log path, and fork. Port is the argument used to tell Mongod which port to listen on. If this isn't specified, Mongod will listen on port 27017 by default. The DB path is where Mongod creates the files that will store information for our databases and collections. Log path is one that we didn't specify just now, but it's where Mongod will log informational messages. We saw this earlier when we ran Mongod, but in that case, it printed it right to standard out, or to the terminal. Instead, we could specify a destination with a log path, and Mongod will output the information in that file instead. Fork is an argument used to tell Mongod to start as a background process. We can use this so that Mongod doesn't block the current terminal window, as it just did. Alright, so let's give some of these options a try. I'd like to start Mongod on port 30,000 with a DB path to a local directory called first Mongod, and fork the process so it doesn't block my shell. Alright, so first, in order to specify a different DB path, we have to create the directory beforehand. Mongod won't do that for us. So in this command, we're just creating the directory first Mongod. Alright, so now if we run this, it's going to give us an error. I forgot to mention that if we specify the fork flag, we must also specify a log path. So let's set the log path to a file called mongod.log in the first Mongod directory. Alright, so now that we've specified our log path, this should work. And it does. It forked the process, it gives us the name of the process ID, 6114, and tells us that the child process started successfully. Alright, so because we forked this process, we actually have access to the shell even after starting Mongod. So we can connect to Mongo in the same shell. However, this isn't going to work because it's trying to connect on port 27017, but we started our process on port 30,000. If we specify that to the Mongo command, it should connect us to the right port. And it does. We can just run a quick show DBs to make sure that our databases are expected, and again, we have the admin database and the local database. So now I'm just going to shut this one down just like we did last time. So we shut down our server from the admin database, and then we exit out of the Mongo shell. Alright, so just to recap, in this lesson we learned that Mongod is the main daemon process for MongoDB. We interact with Mongod through a driver, not directly. Mongod is available on many 64-bit systems, and we learned about some of the basic command line configuration options.